Before we get started, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share it to your folks. What's stopping you? Seriously, what's stopping you? Ask yourself. It's just one button, 1 second. Not even a second. Do that for your boy. Support black business. I was going to do a random rant on this topic, but I feel like a random rant wouldn't do it so much justice, huh? With that said, let's talk about Obsession. No, not the extreme feeling or term that gets thrown around recklessly in the internet days. No, not that movie when Beyonce's throwing hands with that white girl. That's called Obsessed. I'm talking about Obsession, the movie that just came out in theaters recently. Obsession is a 2026 film in which that kind of does a nice little twist to the monkey's paw. While it's still be careful what you wish for, it's more so on the lines of what you wish for is not what you really want, and here are the consequences of such. My girlfriend and I watched this movie this past weekend, and I have to say, I did hear about the movie on the internet and on YouTube and how disturbing it was. Even with the description, y'all still undersold how disturbing that movie was. That movie was the most disturbing movie I ever had in a long time. It's been a while, and especially considering the movie I watched before was Backrooms, and that was disturbing. I'm talking about hereditary levels of disturbing. For a movie that didn't seem to cost that much, they did so well in executing the point of the movie. It's not really me giving a whole in-depth review about the movie or rating of the movie, but it's more of a case of my takeaways and my throwaways. My takeaways and my thoughts about the movie and what it was trying to convey, the whole point of it. Because after watching the movie, I could not get it out of my head. I kept thinking about the movie and start analyzing what I've watched. And when I reanalyzed the movie, I found more stuff I didn't catch off an initial watch. And it intrigued me. And it also scared me. And upset me. I definitely came off feeling different about the movie now than I did when I initially watched it. So here are my thoughts and takeaways of the movie. And hopefully when I get these thoughts out onto this video, the movie can finally get out of my head. At least until my attention deficit disorderly brain replays it randomly throughout the day and the rest of my life, like it does for the Perfect Cell theme remix and that terrible ass biracial song. Number one, Bear did not and could not love anybody or anything but himself. That includes Nikki, that includes Sarah, and that even includes his cat. I think I want to get this out the way, and I'm pretty sure everyone shares the same sentiment about this motherfucker. Bear is undoubtedly the bitchiest of bitches when it comes to movie history. Like the absolute scum of the earth. In fact, I feel 10 times more negatively about him now than I did when I left the movie after watching it. When you really analyze Bear, you see that he is top 5 scum of the earth when it comes to movie protagonists or movie characters. I don't like making this comparison. The closest person in terms of mentality, not in action, because the guy that I'm about to reference did a whole lot worse. I think of season 1 Joe Goldberg when I think of Bear. They even got the same look. No disrespect to Penn Badgley and the other actor. Shout out to them. They did a great job. He represents the most dangerous type of man. I always said the most evil person isn't the one who isn't openly evil. It's the one who thinks he is good and does good. Bear is the perfect symbol of that. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. When I first watched the movie, up until the wish, I kind of felt bad for him. He was the sympathetic loser. He was the shy, reserved, cowardly guy with social anxiety that was chasing a woman that did not want him and could not muster up the courage to be honest about his feelings towards her. I think that was the whole point up until that wish. But then he made that wish out of pure desperation. Because while he could have just opened his feelings up when he had the opportunity, because she did ask him, he decides to fumble it and then makes the wish for his own benefit. I wish for Nikki to love me more than anyone in the world. That's probably the most selfish wish a person can make. to make someone else's entire existence revolve around loving someone else. After that wish, my sympathy dropped dramatically. And as the movie tends to progress, I get a deeper and deeper disgust for Bear, to my sympathy going completely gone and in the negative after the dinner scene. And when I'm talking about the dinner scene, I'm including the set scene. I'm not going into details about the set scene. For those who've seen it, y'all know what I'm talking about, and I hope it makes y'all as sick as it made me and my girlfriend. There was no more sympathy. There was no more care. I did not care for him at all. I did not like him at all. I didn't like him before, but there, I absolutely hated the guy. Reanalyzing the movie and reanalyzing the clips that are on YouTube, the little that are there, I realized that all of Willow Nikki's outbursts was Nikki trying to break free and essentially taking matters in her own hands, whether it be taking herself out or even trying to take Bear out. There were two key things that honestly make me sick, that made me literally sick to my stomach when thinking about Bear. And it's the one I don't think people talk about. The first one, well, obviously the first one was the dinner scene and a set scene after that. That was the first one. The second one was when he decided to call the number that was on the Will-O-Wisp package. My theory is that they could have canceled the wish, whoever was on that phone. But they gave that test first, and he failed badly. The person on the phone asked if he could cancel it. His response, no, I don't want to cancel it. I just want to alter it. That was when he failed the test, because he still thought about himself. Because he could have made that wish to cancel it while Nikki was not too far gone. And he still chose himself. And that becomes a reoccurring thing. Every time Nikki had her outbursts, for Bear, it was about preventing humiliation or preserving his safety. It never was about Nikki's well-being. Whether it was a cat sandwich, whether it was her standing there waiting the whole time looking a complete mess, whether it was him at the party and her whole outburst off of that in front of a whole crowd. He did not care. The messaging was always there, and he was aware of it. He did not care, because he still wanted to keep that wish of her worshiping him. Even if you watch the montage with her happy, quote unquote, it's all revolved around him. And then we get to strike three. The scene when the real Nikki pleads with Bear to kill her. This was his opportunity to show remorse, to apologize, to exhibit some sort of concern from the real Nikki. You know what his response? What is so bad about being with me?
Bitch, what?
Yeah, it went from me to not having any love or respect for the guy to me wanting him to die in the worst way. That son's a sick man with sick thoughts. They niggas like him should die. But before we get to Sarah, let's talk about Sandy. Sandy died because the cat overdosed on the pills that he left on the counter. For anyone who has encountered a cat or had a pet cat, you know cats like to wander. He knows that. He just didn't care. And has anybody ever wondered what did he do with the cat? He threw the cat in the trash bag and threw him in the trash can. He didn't even give him a proper burial. After rethinking about that, I realized that and I'm like, yo, he didn't even care about the cat. He got over that cat so quickly and jumped onto the next thing that interested him, which was Nikki. And now it leads me to Sarah, because he eventually started getting tired of Nikki. And when Sarah voiced her feelings for him in the car scene, spoiler alert, by the way, he got intrigued again, this time in Sarah. Even to the point where he's almost about to kiss her himself. Not forgetting or not caring about the circumstances that he in. Again, he did not care about Sarah. Because he should have known, because he knew that Sarah could have been in danger because of Willow Nikki. The only time he started caring was after she got brutally murdered. Because now, there was blood on his hands. That's when he starts making all these actions to try and do a second wish. And even with the second wish, he doesn't wish to undo everything. He wishes that Nikki will love him as a friend. Still thinking about himself. Bear is a complete bitch. He's a complete scum. A coward to the end. From the start of the movie to the end of the movie. He couldn't even self-delete. He had to get assistance with the wish that Willow Nikki made. for it to happen. He was about to go back on that. A coward to the end. Rotten piss. Number 2, the friend group was trash. The whole dynamic was trash. We all know Bear was the scum of the earth. But the friends, they weren't so well either. They were toxic in their own way. Let's start with the second worst person, Ian. Ian is a fuck boy from beginning to the end. It took me to think about the movie and conversations with my girlfriend to realize that. We both realized that Ian was a piece of shit himself. Especially when you realize that Ian and Nikki was on and off. Especially when you realize that Ian knew that Bear had feelings for Nikki. Especially when you analyze his own actions and behavior. The man was sabotaging from the get-go. The man was giving bad advice to Bear, egging him on to continue trying to get with Nikki. He also told Bear to call Nikki Freaky Nikki, knowing that was most likely something that was between those two and was private, and that she wouldn't like that because it reminded her of him. Apparently he was the one that broke it off with her. So add to the simple fact that once they got together, look at his face, how he reacted. That was not a man that was happy. That was a man that was disgusted at somebody's happiness. Even the extensive research of her dad, whether it be how he was feeling and how he was doing, to the hospitals in the town that he might be placed at, and then calling Bear to tell him the information, not because he cared about Bear, but because he wanted to sabotage. Then asking about Nikki, not because he cared about Nikki, because it was ego. He didn't care about Nikki either. He just wanted to keep having access to her. That's why he was ranting to Sarah about the feelings, because he wanted access to Nikki again. He didn't think that Bear was going to actually cuff her. Editor Khalif in the building. Just want to give more insight to the Ian shit. Because the more I think about it, and per conversations with my lady, I come to realize that Ian is a bigger villain than I gave him credit for. Ian could have stopped this whole thing. And Ian's lack of stopping this whole thing and his whole behavior throughout the whole movie stems from not only his misogyny, but his also lack of his respect for Bear. Because if you saw Bear as one of his homeboys, you know the guys are in the parties that he's drinking, taking shots with, he wouldn't have acted this way. He would have been cool with Bear messing with Nikki, or at least try to warn Bear about Nikki from the get-go, not egg it on in the beginning of the movie and try to sabotage later on. He sees Bear as less to him. We all know these types of guys. They dirty macking straight up. And this is one of the cases. He saw Nikki getting with Bear as an insult to him. Awesome. You gonna go after that guy? He took it personally. He thought that getting with Bear was a form of spite. That's why he was sabotaging. He could have stopped this whole thing, or could have tried to stop it, or told Bear the truth from the get-go. But Ian never thought about that because he never cared about that, because he didn't care for Nikki nor Bear. And notice that he did not make any time to try to check up on Nikki. In his eyes, he knew that she was spiraling. Where was the checkup? Why were you just talking to Bear? Again, piece of shit. He didn't deserve to get killed, but he was a piece of shit himself. He was the type of boy that only viewed Nikki as a means to an end or something to have, just like Bear. Sarah was someone out of the whole friend group that I liked the most. She was a genuinely caring person, and that was obvious for how she treated Bear. But with that being said, she made some toxic mistakes too. Let's get the obvious out the way. Her whole car scene with Bear. After that whole situation, you still decide to make the time to go there, and while you do check up on Bear, and that came from the heart, you also confess your feelings. You're also dirty macking, just like Ian, some dirty macking shit. Even after hearing Nikki going off of outbursts and nearly threaten to kill anybody who dares go near him, and nearly go crazy after the whole Jenga thing. Which, side note, I know, we're dissing Bear again. Bear could have not read the fucking Jenga. I heard this too. Bear Jenga, you don't have to read it. You just take a shot. He didn't take a shot. He chose to do that. Case in point. But anyway, I believe that she was genuinely trying to warn Bear out of concern, because she most likely knows Nikki more than the whole friend group. She knows some stuff. She knows Nikki probably more. So she probably understands how Nikki is, and understand that Bear can be taken advantage of. But I also want y'all to keep in mind this too. You gotta analyze it from their POV, not ours. Us as the viewers, we know that Bear made the wish that caused Nikki to act like this. But to the people in the movie, the other people, the crowd, Sarah, Ian, they don't know that. They just see Nikki spiraling. They don't got an answer for that. So when that considered in mind, it makes you look at them a little bit worse considering how they act. Because also, Sarah did not check up on Nikki personally herself. She only checked up on Bear. Sarah did not deserve this brutal death, and it was a brutal death. I feel extremely bad for Sarah, because if Sarah would have got with Bear, she would have got that same treatment, that same abuse. But unfortunately, she wasn't that much of a good friend to Nikki either. Now Nikki, oh, this one's gonna cause some uproar. When I got introduced to Nikki, I wasn't a huge fan of her. Me and my girlfriend talked about that. She just didn't seem likable. She came off as a person that kind of only had friendships out of convenience, not out of true bonds and care. Now, granted, just by her experiences and her interactions with Bear in the beginning of the movie. Allow me to expand on that so there is no confusion of why I said she comes off that way. We all know somebody that builds friendships out of convenience rather than actual care and bonds. And a lot of times people keep other people around simply for emotional use for themselves, not for each other. It's not always financial or sexual use. Nikki kind of give off that energy based on the patterns from the phone call with Bear in the beginning of the movie, where it seems like she wanted Bear to drop everything and knew Bear would drop everything no matter what he was going through. Even the whole scene where she asks Sarah for $20, she takes the money but gives it to the homeless person without Sarah even saying yes or asking what it was for. On the outside, it looks altruistic, but deeper look at it, it's kind of, you wonder, right? And for the fact that she knew that Bear liked her, and she still kept him around even though she didn't feel the same way, and probably didn't really want him to be around that much or that close. Again, based off of what we know from the beginning of the scene, so it's limited knowledge. Not to mention that she still interacts and keeps contact with Ian. You don't have to be friends with everybody you work with. She had no reason to still have a close bond with Ian, considering their relationship. There's a reason why she wanted to leave. But I think that was the whole point of the movie. And I'll expand on that pretty soon. Let me get this straight and let me make this clear, because the director said that her feelings for Bear were ambiguous. But if you ask me, her action says otherwise. Nikki did not like Bear. Wait, y'all must not heard me. I didn't say Nikki did not love Bear, because yeah, she didn't. But Nikki did not like Bear. I'm talking about she did not like him more than a friend. She did not like him as a friend. She did not like him at all. She was repulsed by him at times. It came off that way. If you need an example, think about the 2 times she said ew. When Ian, of course, called Nikki Bear's girl, she said, ew, don't even think about that. Don't even say that shit. Red flag 1. Ew number 2. When Bear simply said, I got you something. Now context, Nikki was putting her 2-week notice and was leaving. So Bear wanted to get her something. Her response was, ew, what'd you get me? Put yourselves in a situation whether y'all Nikki or whether y'all Bear. Does that sound like someone that likes that person, even as an individual? It don't sound like that, doesn't it? Also, Nikki definitely seemed to have her own issues, whether it be her issues with her father. Again, I don't know the context. We got limited context for that. And also her Molly intake. Also, she seemed to have developed a reputation. Now, let me go ahead and give her a lot of grace, because we got those informations from unreliable narrators, Ian and even Sarah, and Bear, of course. Her reputation could have been on some Hannah Baker type ish, where she has that reputation even though that's not who she really is. It could be most likely that somebody, Ian, could have spread a lot of rumors about her and gave her that reputation that she was a jump off. You see that kind of subtly with the party, with guys trying to squeeze in and talk to Nikki, trying to get with Nikki even though they know Nikki is with Bear. Ian was probably the cause of that. But Nikki clearly had issues, and she definitely was emotionally unavailable. Now, before y'all start throwing your tiki torches and throwing y'all misogyny words out in my way, I want to make it perfectly clear. She did not deserve any of this at all. She was not the villain. She was the victim, the biggest victim, the undeniable victim. As I think about the movie and rewatch the clips on YouTube, I find myself feeling more and more and more bad for Nikki. The more I think about it, the more I realize that her being a decent person or not isn't a factor. Her fate was sealed. But it wasn't sealed with the moment that Bear made the wish. No, her fate was sealed when Bear picked up the Willow Wish. Because even if Bear did admit his feelings and Nikki would reject him, it would not make a difference. He still would make that wish. She was cooked either way, and she did not deserve that. Especially when you realize this key thing about Nikki. Nikki wanted to put in her 2-week notice so she could run away from town and start her passion as a writer. And she's a very good one. The Hansel and Gretel, as discomforting as that was very well written. She told Bear she did not feel any love here. There was a reason for that. She understood the path she was at. She understood where she was. She was developed. She had self-awareness to want to make a change and was trying to. And of course, Bear prevented her from doing that. The person she confided to about that, he did not care about that. It took all that away from her. Anybody who is a decent human being could understand that Nikki did not deserve any of this that she got. Not only it makes you look at Bear at the utmost disgust I could ever have for somebody, it makes you look at Nikki with utmost sorrow that she never got to get that way, and she never gets her happy ending. Part of the reason is that she didn't have a good friend circle around her. She didn't have nobody checking up on her. She didn't have nobody looking out for her, whether it be friends, family, whoever. Whether it be Ian, Bear, Sarah, they all failed her, and they all caused her downfall. Number 3, there has been a Bear in all of us at one point. A lot of us have been Bear. We've been where he was at. In mentality, at least. Some of us are still there. That sympathetic loser, that guy with social anxiety, that guy that chased somebody that obviously didn't want them back. That guy that had a skewed vision of relationships and women. This is the result of what happens when it goes unchecked. Some of us grow out of it. Some of us develop self-reflection, self-awareness. Some of us seek professional and therapeutic help to get out of that mentality. Some of us learn from our mistakes to take accountability. Some of us have good friend circles for us to grow out of that mentality. But then again, there's a lot of men that don't grow out of that mentality. They get deeper into it. Some of them become people with platforms in which they can display their incel-like or red pill-like behavior. Some of them become athletes, artists, celebrities that get a stroke of power and start using that to take advantage and start cheating and abusing women. Some of them gain major power, become part of the government, and pass laws that oppress, abuse, and harm women overall. And then some of them become the president of the United States. It all stems from the Bear mentality. It all does. That mentality of deliberate neglectfulness and selfishness. That mentality where you deliberately misconstrue control with love and romance. A cowardly behavior of not taking accountability for your actions or showing remorse for the things that you've done and the harm that you caused. The type of environment where you go unchecked, whether the group around you either takes no action in trying to correct you or even stop you, or worse, encourage that same behavior and pattern. I think the point of the movie was to show this is what happens when those types of people have a glimpse of power. This is what happens when those types of people don't get checked by the people around them. When there is no concern for the women that are getting harmed. Bear never loved Nikki. And to be honest, I don't believe the idea that goes around the internet that says that he did not know Nikki. I think it's much more ominous than that. I think he didn't care. He didn't want to love Nikki. He wanted to have Nikki. He saw Nikki as an idea, as something to keep him occupied, as something that he can have. He saw Nikki as a replacement for Sandy. And when he got tired of Nikki, he starts seeing Sarah that way. That's the type of man that a quote-unquote nice guy can be, or is. Bear is a symbol of that. And a lot more women relate to that because they counter a bear. Maybe they weren't aware that they were a bear. but they have counted them. And a lot of dudes don't want to admit that, and I don't see a lot of pushback of defending Bear that much, probably because I'm on the right side of the algorithm, thank God. But for those who do, it's the same thing. They try to victimize Bear and blame Nikki, the misogynistic patriarchy way of life, because they don't want to admit that they've been Bear before. They put themselves as Bear. They've dealt with the woman that rejected them or did not love them like they wanted to love them, and knowing the fact that they might not have loved that person like that, or they have, but at the same time, that's not what Bear was. And we could all agree that at some point that was us when we was young at one point. Maybe when we was kids, maybe we was in high school or college, and we didn't understand. I know at one point that was me when I was in high school and college. I didn't understand. I had a skewed view. I didn't understand. And I let myself get taken advantage of, and I developed toxic mentalities and toxic traits because of that. But I outgrew them because I had a strong support system, and I took accountability, and I learned to self-reflect, because I self-reflect a lot, and I always do. There's always room for improvement, and I'm blessed to have the people in my life to keep me on check whenever I was going astray. Unfortunately, a lot of dudes don't have that. So here's my advice to y'all: if you ever catch yourself relating to Bear or any of these red pill dudes or anybody that has that mentality, the Joe Goldbergs, the Homelanders, whatever, the Aubrey Grahams, the Puffies, whatever, seek professional help. Seek therapeutic help. Learn to take accountability. Accept rejection as a part of life, because that's going to happen in general, not just in relationships. Understand that any rejection isn't a reflection on you or even a woman. Not every rejection is because she's a bitch. Y'all just aren't compatible. That's realistic. She just doesn't like you. It's just realistic. It is what it is. I know it's a hard pill to swallow, and sometimes you start blaming yourself what kind of person you are. But I assure you, it's just a way of life. You just gotta take it on the chin. Develop empathy and sorrow. And if you can't do that, you got to seek therapeutic help. Be open about that. It's one thing to come across those feelings. It's another thing to think those feelings are okay and don't need to be excommunicated from your thought process. If you know somebody that has something like that and still has a chance to turn around, help them. Correct them. Check them. This is a recurring theme. I keep saying this. There's going to be a recurring theme in this channel. Call out the people and check them. That's the way you can help them. Because you'd be surprised how many a lot of dudes aren't aware of their own behavior. I know. We too old for that, but at the same time, it happens. And one more thing, and this is the most important thing. Understand that women are human beings too that deserve respect just like any other man. They are not objects for pleasure. They're not a means to an end. They're not a property that you can hover over people's head. They are human beings. They deserve love, respect, honesty, communication, and rights like everybody else. They are just as important, if not more important than us. And yes, I said it. We all came from a woman. And y'all can call me a sinful for saying that, but cry by it, because it's a fact. Because recent events have shown that women are always going to be harmed and nothing gets done about it. You've seen it with the Epstein files. You've seen it with them overturning Roe versus Wade. And hopefully this movie does at least a little bit to get people to recognize that and get people to kind of get out of this bear mentality. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Peace.
And losers gets real, so the loser will build an after image as such. Tell me, what do you feel? Field of disorder, but exterior's grand appeal. Shit looks sweet till you taste what's underneath the pill, which reversed to that hill I emerged from. And even as a teen, no excuse to be young and dumb. No helping hands, only fingers, a rule of thumb. Life's full of mirages, peep them or become one. J. What to do with behind on the foot race when you lose against time. Looking at my hands, see the bruises from the climb. Standing as a man by any means to survive. Whatever it takes just to get by. Past trials and ways just to get by. Gladly walk through the mines just to get by. Don't never lose my way.